Arsenal, however, they go to Wolves as they try to claw back the Reds' 6 points lead at the top. The January transfer window has been a hot topic. Arsenal have been linked, of course, with Wolves forward Matheus Cunha.
Is my player. I think he's not for sale. This is the information from the club, and he's committed with us, with our what we need from him. That he plays in his level and his high level, committed with the team. That's all.
Dan, good morning, Mikel.
Morning.
If I could just start by asking about some players potentially returning from injury.
Yeah.
Lewis Skelly, Saliba, Ben White. Can you give us an update on those three?
Yeah, with Miles, there's nothing serious on the scan, so it will be a matter of today have a meeting with the medical staff. We have a training session, whether it's too early or not, and we will need something similar as well. I think definitely be in for next week. This week, let's see how it goes.
Ben White still
not available, no.
Not available, but potentially Saliba and Lewis Skelly tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Obviously, there's so much noise outside. Arsenal need to sign a forward. Arsenal need to sign a forward. And I know it's not like broken records when we ask you about that, but you clearly don't share that same sentiment. Do you think it is essential that you sign a forward, or would you be very happy?
Sorry, I don't share what?
The same sentiment that you have to sign a forward this month, or do you?
Have I ever said no to a striker?
No, but you don't feel it's a necessity, do you?
How do you say that?
You do feel it's a necessity.
I don't understand the question.
Okay. I'm saying so many people outside the club seem to think that Arsenal have to sign a forward this month.
So what is my opinion?
Yes.
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, my opinion is clear. We lost two very, very important players, Bukayo Saka and Gabi Jesus. So we lack goals, we lack people, we lack options in the front line. It's clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think it's essential that you have to bring forward then?
If we can get the right player, that's what we are actively looking at it. Yeah. Any player, no. Someone that makes us better and has an impact in the team. It's clearly that for the period that we lost them, ideally, we need some help because we were very short already and we're even shorter. But the team still copes with that. But we have to do what is right for the club.
If the window were to close and you hadn't brought in a forward option?
That's an option because it doesn't depend on us. It doesn't depend just on Arsenal or Mikel or our will. It depends on the market and many other factors.
And is there work going on at the moment? Have you identified targets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, you're limited by the fact that you can't bring in a domestic loan. Would you consider the possibility of sending Neto or Sterling back to their parent clubs if a domestic loan?
We're not thinking about that.
That's not an option.
We're not thinking about it.
Obviously, this weekend is a reverse of the opening day of the season fixtures. When you look at where Arsenal were there as opposed to where you are now, how do you think you've changed as a side since then?
I think we are a much better size than at the start of the season. Much better.
In what sense?
In every sense, because we have, first of all, because we have evolved a lot as a team. We have some very important experiences. The way we have competed throughout the last 6-7 months with everything that happened is outstanding, I think.
Okay, Roger from Premier League.
Hi, Mikel. Just on a similar theme, I mean, you played Wolves at the start of the season. Different manager has come in since then. Do you relish that challenge of facing a new manager and somebody maybe?
Well, it's been in now for a few weeks already, so we already know. I know Victor very well from previous clubs as well, and what his ideas are, and it's very clear how he sets the team. I think he had a really good impact in the team, and it will be a really tough match tomorrow because they are a really well-coached team, and especially there, they're a difficult side to beat.
How do they differ under Pereira from the team that you faced at the start of the season? Have you noticed a difference in the short time he's been?
Well, in regards, first of all, to the structure and the organization that they use is different. There are certain very clear principles what they want to achieve with and without the ball, as well as certain players that they are in different moments. At the start of the season, they were in certain moment. Now they're in a different moment as well. So everything, it's important.
They've lost 3 in a row, and they've conceded 3 in each of those games. Do you sense that their priority may be just to be as compact and difficult to break down as possible rather than playing on the front foot, but therefore obviously making it tougher for you?
Well, they've done it differently. They've done it differently throughout matches, regardless the opposition and regardless as well results. So it tells a lot about their intentions as well. So we'll have to understand very quickly what kind of game they want to propose and what is good for us.
One of the players that gets talked about there is Cunha, of course. He's been linked with several clubs, including Arsenal as well. What is it about him? What threat does he pose? What sort of a danger would he be?
Yeah, I prefer not to talk about the individual. I talk about the collective qualities that they have, and they do have a lot.
Recent games, the Cup game, the Aston Villa game, you have said that the team probably hasn't got what it's deserved, has dominated matches, created chances. Is there a danger that sort of thinking can get to the players as well? They can think things aren't going our way, we're playing well, but we're not doing it well.
That's a fact. That the thing is that we cannot feel sorry for ourselves. We have to design our hands, and there are certain elements, certain things, certain moments that we have to elevate those standards. So then those margins become huge, and they are a reflection of actually what happened on the pitch.
Okay. Go to Alex from the BBC.
Hi.
I know it's only been a couple of days since we saw you last, but have there been any further plans about the winter break?
No, no further plans, not yet.
And I know you've been asked a lot about the striker, and you said that it has to be right for the club. Does that factor in potentially the summer window and the plans that you have long-term about potentially new players?
Well, everything has, obviously. You have certain resources, the ability to recruit certain players, to develop certain players, to bring certain players for the academy. So everything, in a positive note as well. We have two of our own players that probably nobody expect to have any participation this year. And they had a lot, and a very important one so far. So that's as well a big bonus.
Ian, TalkSport.
Mikel, how are
Hi,
you?
good, thank you.
When you look at bringing in players, so let's say you want to bring in someone to help out because Bukayo Saka's injured. How difficult is it? Because that player knows that the minute Bukayo Saka comes back, Bukayo Saka is going to play.
That's the theory, we don't know for how long and how many games he can play. I think the context has changed a lot. I mean, the amount of games that we have, the intensity, the demands that we put in our players, it's just impossible to think that a player can sustain a position. It's not going to happen.
Goals. That's what Arsenal need to keep doing, right? Because otherwise that narrative is going to keep coming back. Where's your number 9? Where's your centre forward? But they got past Dinamo Zagreb in Europe in midweek, and a couple of the goal scorers, Declan Rice, and we saw Odegaard as well. Goals from midfield. That's what he wants as well, is right now.
Yeah, absolutely it is, yeah. But ultimately, he just needs to make sure he has enough goals to win a game of football. I think at times we can go down this route and thinking, well, the 9 has to do it, the 9 has to do it. But if they brought in a 9 that scored maybe 20 goals between now and the end of the year, no one else contributed, they'll end up in the same situation.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to go back a year, and we were having these same conversations, but this was the same time when Arsenal went on a run where they probably didn't drop any points for 2 months. They have the potential to be better. Obviously, Saka being missing is huge. Gabriel Jesus supporting as well. That is huge. But yeah, the goals are key. But I think for me in this game itself, they're going to go and play against the Wolves side who conceded 19 goals from set pieces. I think as far as teams that you don't want to be playing against if you're Wolves, I think Arsenal's probably going to be one of them. So it's not to say that the matchup won't work out. Wolves can't get better at that. But I think for Arteta, he's pragmatic. He knows that he wants to win games of football and give himself the best opportunity to do it. And for the last couple of years, I think he's been very good at that. He's come up a bit short, but I think they've been very good.
It feels like the new manager bounce has lost at Wolves now, isn't it?
I think so. And I think the defensive issues that were there before are still there. The discipline issues that were there before are still there. I think going forward, they're still a very dangerous team, but defensively, they look so poor. And I think they'll be okay in terms of... I think there are 3 worst teams of Wolves in the Premier League right now. But I do think that they need to sort out some long-term issues and work out where the future of this team is. And that's a big challenge. But in terms of Arsenal, I think far too strong for this Wolves team.
Yeah. Vitor Pereira, the Wolves boss, says there, Matheus Cunha is not for sale. Whether...
He said, I think.
Oh, I think. Yeah. But so there's room for manoeuvre, right?
It's very clear, you know what I mean?
So,
unless he's trying to really master his English, I think he's probably said something there which matters,
Yeah.
Everyone knows that Cunha has been the standout for them
So
this
good
season.
to watch.
Standout. Some of the goals he's scored, his moments, he's basically given them a chance to be thinking about not being relegated, because while they're conceding 3 goals a game, basically, they've managed to win some games out of nowhere and score some great goals to keep them in games as well. So I think people are going to be interested in trying to bring him across to their side. And everyone essentially has a price. We try and pretend that they don't. But everyone does have a price, and obviously they don't want to get rid of somebody that's potentially going to help them stay up. But the fact is, it's football, it's business, and while somebody's hot and he can score from corners like that, yeah, why not?
Is he a good fit for Arsenal?
I think he could be. I think he definitely could be. I think his sort of like skill on the ball, his understanding, his intelligence in terms of moving around the field, and his link-up play is like very well suited to that setup. Whether he's going to be playing as a number 9, I'm not sure about that. But the fact is, Arteta's a good enough coach. The people around him are good enough players as well to get the strength to sort of play into his strengths and him to play into theirs. So I think it could be a good sign.
It's so interesting because, when you see one player who's been linked with the opposition and they're playing, you're like, is he going to be wholehearted, committed? Does he want to jeopardise a move, perhaps? Or does he want to put himself more in the shop window? If you're a player, what do you do?
Play well.
Yeah, but within yourself almost.
I think unless he knows that he's going to be going to Arsenal, the plan is always to play well, because your employer at this moment in time is struggling down near the bottom of the table. You have to try and play well. You have to try and get that. And a win for him with his connection to Wolves against Arsenal is huge. They're looking for a spark to try and help them propel themselves up the table. This could be it.
And so what about his suitors, Arsenal, who, did the job in Europe, but they let more points slip against Aston Villa when it looked like they were cruising at 2-0 upflow?
Yeah, I think that'll be really frustrating for them as a group, because even though the results have still been fairly good recently, I still think there's a pressure, there's a visible pressure there. The injuries don't help.
Was this complacency? Was it Saliba missing? What was it?
I think the defence hasn't had a great Christmas and start of the year, to be honest. And I think obviously that is such a strong foundation for them, and it is what pushed them all the way close to the title last season. So we're so used to seeing them so strong at the back, and I think a few mistakes feel really exposed for Arsenal, even though they're still very, very strong in that position on the pitch. But I think as well, when you've got a player like Kai Havertz, who I actually think has maybe been overperforming since he arrived at Arsenal, perhaps this is more a levelling out of perhaps where he is realistically for them, because I think there is a lot of expectation on him to try and deliver double figures goals, whereas I think the position he's in right now, yes, he's fallen off a little bit, but I do think maybe realistically this is a lot of pressure on him to be Arsenal's main outlet right now, and I think the pressure has to come off a little bit, and that's where you see the best out of him. I think there's been a kind of reflection now back on that negativity from fans a little bit about his performances, and I do think when that starts to build, he gets out of it a little bit, but you don't want that to creep in, and that's why I think bringing another player who can absorb some of that from Havertz could be a good idea, because when he's isolated and he's the number 9 and there's injuries and everyone's looking at him, that's a really exposing place to be in.
12 points they've lost from winning positions this season, Arsenal. You said, I could see you when Flo was saying complacency and I was asking about William Saliba. What's your thinking of why they're just letting careless points slip at the minute?
I think at times we're guilty as people who love the Premier League of saying it's the best league in the world, but then also assuming that teams should win every week all the time comfortably as well. And I think as we look at that game there against Aston Villa are a team that are playing in the Champions League this year. They've got a manager on the side, Unai Emery, who's more experienced than a Mikel Arteta, a manager who knows situationally what to try and do in certain moments. And yes, Arsenal have made mistakes in that game and they've dropped those points elsewhere. But it's the Premier League. This is something that, we almost... We sort of say, oh, this is amazing, I can't believe it's happened. But then it happens.
I think you're right,
often.
actually.
Because
we almost talk blasé, about Manchester City when they go and win 15 games in a row. And then we expect other teams just to do it.
Football.
It's not going to happen.
It's a very, very tough sport. And I think for Aston Villa, given the fact that they beat Arsenal at the Emirates last season, the fact that I think it did well against them earlier in this season, why would they not have the belief they can get back into a game?
I think still with a team like Aston Villa, that any of those teams in probably the top 10, a lot of those teams have still good enough individual quality that can hurt anyone. It's just whether they can stay in games. And I think the problem is Arsenal gave them too much hope. If they had killed that game with the chances they had, they could have been 4-0 up and that would have been it. But as soon as they gave Villa a little hint of it, I think they just knew that there was a weakness there. As
Nedum mentioned a little earlier, there is a chance we'll get a set-piece goal, no doubt, from Arsenal. And there's been so much attention, hasn't there, on their set-piece specialists, Yova and McPhee. Do you think it's a good thing that these guys are almost getting as much attention on the sidelines as maybe the manager?
I think so. It's funny because I think people maybe have become a little bit obsessed with it when, it wasn't that long ago that maybe there were conversations around what Tony Pulis was doing with his throws. But even when Liverpool were bringing in set-piece specialists and long throw specialists and everything like that, everyone wants to make those marginal gains where they can. And Arsenal have a lot of fairly physical and big players, and they've unlocked something that helps them. I think it's harsh when people maybe criticise it, use it as a way to criticise. Yeah, and I do think they should be worried though about how much that they still create from open play, because you know that's something you need to focus on. But if that's your tool, that's your tool,
absolutely.
and you should use it.
Make the most of your weapons, right? OK, as far as Nottingham Forest are concerned, with their level on points, let's not forget, with Arsenal going into their match at Bournemouth this weekend, Forest boss Nuno Espirito Santo has been impressed by the consistency of his side.
But even when you watch the way in which Liverpool get that 2-0 win against Brentford, the Arsenal players were getting ready to go out. They had the 5:30 kickoff UK time, and they will have known what was happening. Do you think any of that played into Arsenal's mindset for the game? It didn't look like it, certainly at the beginning.
No, because their stuff would have started the game really well. Villa were really on the back foot in the game. They started brilliantly. Could have maybe even scored more. But again, I'm watching that game, and you know, as well as we are doing without the players, like with Thomas Partey playing where he's playing, Marino's still looking for him to kick in and do well. I thought Martinelli and Trossard done the best they could, trying to get on the outside as well. But I just never felt confident when Villa had saw Villa do a couple of moves, and they got through us pretty easily, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, if we don't kind of like get this in check and get this country, they're probably going to get something. And they did.
That is Villa, though, isn't it? They're always in the game. They're always in the game. Yeah, they are, Gaffer. And they're an awkward team to play against.
Yeah, they do that block, and they've got the pace to go against you. You got Onana, obviously, he had to come off, but then you've got Kamara. They've got good physicality, got great pace up front. And, you just always felt a little bit nervy about what they could do.
Yeah. It's interesting when you get home and away game. If that's at Villa Park and Arsenal are 2 up, they win the game.
Yeah, I think so.
And the emphasis at home now, sometimes, if you're going to win the league, you've got to say, we're 2-0 up, we hold on to this. We don't throw players forward, we look to get over the line. And if we lose a goal, 2-1, we win 2-1. But if it's away from home, you've only got a little section of your away supporters in the corner, and you think, right, its mentality is let's defend this lead. It's very difficult to do that at home because your home team wants you to go and open up and play and get the third. And that's the difficult thing, particularly if you're going for the league. You've got to say, like, for half an hour, shut the door.
Absolutely.
Let's shut the door and make sure, if we get a third, we get a third. But don't go gung-ho. That's what Ian's just said. You felt Villa were always going to be in the game because to a certain degree, Arsenal allowed them. They had a makeshift sort of an awkward back four, didn't they? The back four didn't look like it's normal, if you like. So protect them.
But I thought that was quite interesting in terms of team selection from Arteta, in that there was one injury in defence, but he made 3 or 4 changes around. I thought that was an interesting...
You move Timber, you move Partey, you move Rice.
Yeah.
Well, look at the goal, Partey.
Yeah, for sure.
He's not a fullback, he's not a defender. He's in the perfect position. Yeah. He's stepping up at the very moment the lad's putting the ball on his foot. It's too late then. Bang, he's up and his two mates...
Even the first goal, Gaffer, I think that Marino, for him to let Tielemans get that side of him to the point where he's now stretching. Again, those 2 mistakes could have been avoided. Simply by just better play. Yeah. Just a bit more awareness of where you are. I thought, for me, if you're going to change like that, I was thinking, Gaffer, like, I'd have put Declan at right centre-back and Timber at right back, just to keep the shape that they're used to. And you know what? I put Miles
Timber
Skelly...
at right back, 100%.
Yeah, and the way Miles Skelly's playing, especially when he can receive that in the middle, I'd probably play him in there. I don't think that's going to be as bad as the Partey being there. And unfortunately for him, getting like, targeted in that back post.
Does he just not want to play Kivior?
Well, this is
remember he made the mistake against Newcastle.
It's worrying. That's worrying because, like, if you're Kivior now, you're probably thinking, well, it's probably
it's the old story of the 2 left-footed centre-backs as well playing together, which you play 2 right-footed and nobody says anything. But when he's 2 left-footed, we all say, like, I'm not sure there.
It's weird.
It's like playing a real left-footer at right-back. Everyone goes, whoa, that's... But loads of right-footed left-backs, isn't there?
Exactly.
Played over the years.
And you talked about Arteta's comments that were, you felt, pointed towards the board, saying, I need reinforcements here. What do they need to look for if they're going to do business in January?
Kel's, the thing is, it's no secret that everybody knows that we need an out-and-out striker. There's chances that are being missed at the club that if you had a striker, just a normal striker, who just gets into those positions, he'll be in the middle of the box, he might get more goals. The thing with it, Kels, we've needed more attacking players even when everyone's fit.
And then you lose Saka, and it kind of like accentuates everything what they need. Arsenal knew that they would need more backup, whether it's defensively or attacking wise. They've needed that, and we've got to this window now. I don't know what we're 10 days left.
Yeah, 10.
They should be doing something. They should be doing something. It should have been done ages ago. Whatever's the lead-up plan, we should be getting a couple more bodies in that dressing room, Gaffer, because I think that dressing room now is looking for someone in there to give them a lift, and at the moment, there's nothing. And that's what a new signing would do. Now, I believe they have to do it in January. But whether it happens or not, I don't know. Maybe the quietness, what we're not wearing anything out of Arsenal, is because they might have a big surprise, which you hope. But if you don't, then again, you go the other way where you're like, oh, there wasn't a surprise. And you're down again. Yeah, that's what the fans feel. Big things have to happen.
They're working on the Zubimendi deal for next season. I know, and the problem then is financially. Arsenal, like a lot of Premier League clubs, are losing money, and they can't just spend and spend and spend. So I think they're looking at what they can do in terms of a number 9 or a goal scorer. But they will be limited. They can't go and spend 100 million on somebody, whether it's Sesko or Isak or whoever you want. So they're looking, but they're a bit limited, I think, in what they could do right now.
It's got to be a very astute buy if they're going to buy anyone in January as well. Who are you going to get that's going to be long-term right for Arsenal to go again next year? And that's the difficult. You think, well, do I need to buy some? But is he really in my plans for the next 2 or 3 seasons? Maybe not, but we need him as an emergency. But he's got to be the right player, and that's so difficult in the January window. It really
Clubs
is.
are so resistant to those kind of reactive transfers now, aren't they? They just want, we need somebody to come in and fix a problem for us. It's not. It's
but the thing is that saying that, and I know what the Gav is saying, but the fact is that Arsenal have needed extra attackers. So I believe they should get one. If you can get him now, get him because we're going to need him anyway. Because the fact that we need a number 9. I think if we go next season and we're still without the number 9 or the backup for Saka, backup for, the left side as well, the left back, hopefully Miles Lewis-Skelly can fill that, but he's a midfielder in general. So hopefully we can get somebody because Calafiori again's injured, Zinchenko probably moved. They need to be getting those bodies in there. Be getting them in there.
So where's the title race now then?
Liverpool. That's it.
Well, they're 6 points clear with the game in hand of Arsenal and Forest.
It's theirs to lose. It's theirs to lose. But unless they get...
Does it feel like this has been a weekend that's kind of confirmed
that result was the way it happened in the end there. It just felt like, right, they're into the we're not going to lose zone.
And after the Forest scenario as well, you think Forest are going to do... Forest are on a great run.
Great run, yeah.
And suddenly Liverpool then, make the 2 subs and then they go to Brentford now this weekend. You think, wow, this is a tough game for them. They're going to get a point and wallop. They go and get the 2 late goals with their substitutes again. You just think they've just got on the pitch and off the pitch, everything's correct there. The manager's doing fantastic job.
It has to be I don't know what can happen.
Loads of injuries to key players, and that would be the only reason.
Circumstances they'll claim with red cards, but has that been the problem? They've got themselves into good positions and not seen it through.
Yeah, without doubt. If you're going to win a Premier League or if you're going to push for a Premier League, once you're in front, you've got to manage games, especially at 2-0. 1-0, listen, the game's still in the balance. It's still a contest, but at 2-0, you should see it out without any doubt.
Yeah, and then we'll go on a record against the bottom half teams in the table. Obviously, being able to beat the bottom half teams, 31 points, only 13 against the top half of the team. And I think I read a stat that they've, I think, was it in 18 games when they're leading at half-time, they won all 18. Was it last season, this season? Finding that very difficult. So let's go and take Leroy. You think Arsenal is still in this title race, Leroy?
Yeah, I do. Look, there's plenty of time to go, and look,